Okay, so the first three reflexes I'm going to talk to you about are what are called sensory reflexes. They develop at different times, but I'm going to show you how to assess them in the next video, but I'm going to kind of explain them real quickly and different things they play into. So the first one that I'm going to have you check is what's called a rooting reflex. And I'll show you on a patient how we're going to do it, but it's pretty simple. What you do is you stroke from their ear to their face here, and what you'll see is if it's present, you'll see their lips reflexively move. And it might be here, it might be here. Usually I use like a paintbrush for this, like a little one, or a pen. Might be here, might be here, might be here, but what you'll see is every time you stroke in that spot, their lips will reflexively move. If it's bad enough, what you'll see is as you stroke here, they'll even turn their head and open their mouth and start to suck. But that reflex should actually go away right around 3 to 4 months of life. And in a lot of kids it doesn't, and it plays into the development of the musculature of your mouth. So it plays a lot into feeding issues, it plays a lot into speech issues, plays a lot into fine motor skills, because we have something called a Babinski response where our hands and our mouth are connected. That's why you see infants like grab stuff, put it in their mouth, because they're really connecting an area of the brain. It's their lateral cerebellum that's connecting. But so that's the first reflex that we're going to kind of walk through how to test it. And what to do with it if it's still there. And the nice thing is about that reflex is it's really pretty simple. To get rid of it, you simply stimulate it. So we'll chat about that in another video here of different tools we use for that. The second one we're going to talk about is what's called the Palmar Grasp reflex. So just like you saw as an infant, you stick your finger in their hand, they grasp down. As an infant, that's what you'll see, but as they get older, it starts to look different. But what you're looking for is if you stroke their hand either here or here, I check a lot of different angles on it, but if you see a spot, like for example, you stroke here and you see reflexive movements of their fingers, like a lot of times you'll see, boom, a really quick movement of their fingers when you stroke the palm of their hand, that's a Palmar Grasp reflex. That's what you're looking for, is any reflexive movement when you stroke, stroke, stroke. You might only see it 2 or 3 times in the brain, and then basically it fatigues out and you don't see it for a little bit, and you come back to it later and you'll see it again and again. That reflex plays a lot into fine motor coordination. So kids that have handwriting issues, a lot of times they'll still have this reflex. A lot of times when kids have feeding issues or they're really messy, they'll still have that reflex. It also plays into speech development because of that Babinski's connection. So if you have a kid that has speech delays, make sure those are being checked. If they have feeding issues, if they have fine motor issues, make sure those are being checked. The last sensory one that I check is on the bottom of the foot. We have one called a Babinski reflex. So if this is the bottom of my foot, you know, you're looking at the bottom of my foot here, this is the top of my foot. When we stroke on the outside of their foot, if they have a Babinski reflex, what you'll see is their toes will splay out like that. Toes will splay out, their toes will splay out. That's a reflex that should go away right around a year. Some people say it should go away earlier, and some people say that it should never be there, to be honest, but that's not really the case. It should go away right around a year before we start to walk. If it doesn't go away before we start to walk, what happens is when we put our foot down, our toes want to come up. So a lot of times kids will go up on their toes to try to prevent that. So it can play a lot into like toe walking, play a lot into balance stuff. From a clinical perspective, and when we learn this in school and whatnot, when a kid has a Babinski reflex, they say that's what's called an upper motor neuron lesion, or there's something going on in the brain that's causing that, but usually it's not as severe as that. So upper motor neuron lesion would be like a stroke or a tumor or stuff like that, but I've only found that in one kid out of testing thousands, and that kid was missing his corpus callosum in the middle of his brain. He was missing it. So usually this reflex is related, in my perspective, when I see it, a lot of times it's related to different food sensitivities. So if you see it, that's something you'll want to rule out. The other sign is it's a sign of overall brain maturity. So if your brain's underdeveloped or not mature, you'll still see this reflex being present. And then I very often find this reflex also in conjunction with kids that have bedwetting. So, and again, bedwetting is kind of a sign of brain maturity, or immaturity, I should say, past the age of 5. But as that brain matures, as you work through this program, a lot of times you'll see bedwetting improve dramatically. Or if you remove whatever foods they're sensitive to, a lot of times you'll see bedwetting improve dramatically. So those are the 3 different sensory reflexes. I'm going to show you how to test them on a patient as they come in, that I'm going to show you in a little bit here. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. To learn more or to schedule an intensive or anything with my team, there's a link below. Just go ahead and click that and that'll get you to the right spot. Have an awesome day.